Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 2021 federal midterm election results show. As always, I'm Hurricane, and my co-host APG is here. Say hi.
Good evening, everybody.
And joining us are leaders from all three parties contesting the election. For the Democrats, we have Roberts, who is...
Hello.
For the Republicans, we have the Hex, who is a congressional candidate for the 3rd District.
Hello, how are you doing tonight?
And for the Greens, we have Kyo Santo, who is running for the 1st District of Fremont.
Good evening, everyone.
Before we get started into the results, let's first see where the table stands right now. Going into the election, in the U.S. Senate currently, it is perfectly tied 5-5, which means that since Vice President Seldom is with the Republicans, this gives the Republicans a very narrow majority with control of the Senate. However, there are 5 seats up in this race, 2 Republican-held ones and 3 Democrat-held ones. For the Republicans, keeping the majority will mean keeping the Meanwhile, for the Democrats, because they don't control the vice presidency, they will need at least to gain 1 net seat. And finally, for the House of Representatives, as it stands, due to a variety of mergers and the unfortunate demise of the Civics People's Party, as it stands right now, the Democratic Green Coalition has 26 seats, which is more than a 2/3 majority, so they can override the president's vetoes, while the Republicans only have 11 seats. We'll be going soon to the Atlantic Commonwealth for our first results. APG, do you have anything to say at this point?
Yeah, I think this could be a very interesting night here for these midterms, and I'm looking forward to it personally.
Yeah, great. So let's first go to the exit polls for Atlantic. In Atlantic right now, the entire congressional delegation is controlled by the Democrats, while Senator Guns is with the GOP. Meanwhile, for the exit polls right now, the challenger for the Senate seat, Zippy, is up by 6 points, while Democratic candidates for the 1st and 2nd districts are also up, while the 3rd district is tied. Party leaders, what are your expectations? APG, would you mind calling on them?
Yeah, let's start with the Democrats first.
We are expecting to win all 3 House districts and the Senate tonight. If we can win the Atlantic Senate race with Zippy, it'll be a good sign for us to regain control of the Senate tonight. We're looking especially at the 3rd district. The first 2 are pretty much guaranteed for us.
Perfect. We'll move on to the Greens briefly.
This is a really good result for the Democrats, and I see no reason to not be anything but happy with these results.
And we'll finish with the GOP.
I'm going to have to disagree with my Democratic former colleague in the House. This isn't going to be indicative of anything if it goes to the Democrats. Atlantic is a deep blue state, and it's amazing, great wonder that we even have a GOP incumbent running. So the fact that it's within a 6-point margin actually shows that it's going to be a great night for the Republicans because of how deep blue the state is.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Meanwhile, as you can see on the sidebar right now, we are getting some early results from the Senate races. As always, these will keep updating throughout the night. And you might expect more urban votes to come in towards the end, and as well more votes to coming in from more Western precincts later at night as well. So that all of that being said, let's get right to results. In the first district, you have Democratic Assembly Speaker, I'm not good at naming, facing off against the Republican candidate, Tarkin 15. And in this race, the Democrats have won 54 to 46. However, keep in mind, this is an exit poll on day one that started at 70 to 30. So this is still quite an impressive showing for the Republican here, thanks to Boston turnout. But however, that being said, let's move on now to the second district. And in Atlantic second district, which is New York, Anna Corna for the Democrats has won this 56 to 44. That is 2 seats so far for the Democrats. Meanwhile, in the third district, which is Jersey and Pennsylvania, we have what might be the first upset of the night, with Republican candidate Cody defeating Democrat fast leader 51 to 49, which means that the all-blue delegation will not be returning in the next term. Now that we've seen some House races, let's look at the Senate. We're still only 50% in, but you can see right now, Guns is leading 52 to 48, but half the results are still to come. So the final outcome is still in the air. APG, do you have any analysis for these races?
Yeah, I think this is certainly surprising. As you mentioned, Hurricane, at the beginning of these elections, the Atlantic Democrats seem to be doing very well. Then it might be a complete sweep, but we're looking at the polls. They narrowed quite considerably to the point where Cody was able to catch up, and I'm not good at naming. Starts at around 75%. Is knocked all the way down close to 50 and 60. So, maybe a worrying sign for the Atlantic Democrats, especially in the Senate race.
All right, thank you, APG. Let's now go to party leaders for thoughts on these results and expectations going into Greater Appalachia. Would you mind moderating?
Yeah, let's start with the Democrats again.
Well, in the third district, it's certainly a disappointment to see us losing the seat, but we performed very well in the first two. The Senate race still close, and I think with more urban counties coming in, we are going to see a win for it's Zippy 23 in that race tonight. In Greater Appalachia, no question, we're going to win the Senate race, and I think we'll win two out of three of the districts for sure.
All right, we'll move on to the Greens.
I echo the sentiments of the Democrat representative. I think overall that we will just have to wait and see for some more urban counties to come in as to whether the Senate flips back to the Democrats in the lead. But besides that, I'm really just focused on Fremont first and overall. So,
and finally, the Republicans.
To see such a close race in a very typically dark blue congressional seat and a near tie favoring a Republican in a deep blue state, it's a good sign for the GOP, especially going into Greater Appalachia. Because we have those two 50% ties, we had a 50% tie in a deep blue state, and now we're moving on to a more moderate state. I think we're going to see victory there, maybe not in the Senate, but definitely in the House of Representatives, and will control the House delegation.
All right, thanks, y'all.
All right. Thank you to all the party leaders. Now let's move on to look at the exit polls for Greater Appalachia, birthplace of jazz, moonshine, and slavery. And in Greater Appalachia, for the Senate race, we have incumbent Senator Polka Dot 48, who is clearly very popular in the state, with a 24-point lead in the exit poll. Meanwhile, the first, second, and third districts are all held by the coalition. But the exit poll shows tied races in the first and third, while House Majority Whip ACAX is clearly ahead in the second. So now let's move on to House results. And in the first district, where the Golden Owl for the Democrats faced off against Republican candidate Grigidus, the Republican has in fact won this very closely fought race, 53-47, which gives the Republicans their second pickup of the. Meanwhile, let's now go to the second district, where House Majority Whip ACAX was against Republican candidate Le Chevalier Malfait. And in this race, as expected, the Democrats have kept the seat for ACAX, which means he will be going back as House Majority Whip designate. Now let's go to the third district. And in the third district, Greater Appalachia Speaker Jacob EI has won 59-41 against Republican challenger Ches Asver, which might have been less close than some would have expected. However, that being said, at this point, I believe we have a call for the Senate. Because of how big the blowout was, we can now confirm with 78% reporting that Polka Dot 48 has been reelected as senator for Greater Appalachia, currently standing 71-29%. A very big blowout indeed. And you can see the map here, APG. Any comments on the map and the races so far?
Yeah, first off, my congratulations to Polka, who, as far as I'm aware, is the first person to run for Senate and join the 70% club. So congratulations to you there. And the congressional races, or the House races, again, kind of a surprise with the GOP upset in the first district. I mean, that race was certainly closer than some of the ones in Atlantic, but still, you're coming in with a pretty good margin, sort of a buffer against that, and ends up getting eaten away. So I guess if the GOP have anything to take tonight from these first two races, is their campaigns have been pretty solid. So that's all I've got. We'll move on to the Democrats.
Actually, first, we actually have a second call in a Senate race at this point.
Oh, exciting.
Thankfully, because the vote canvassers in Atlantic are working faster than normal, which means that now with 93% reporting, we can confirm the Democrats have their first pickup of the night in the Senate, with House Majority Leader Zippy defeating incumbent Senator Guns 11. Right now, 52-48, which puts the Democrats 2 seats away from picking up the Senate. With these results, now let's go to party leaders. APG, take it away.
Yeah, so the Democrats are able to sort of stave off an attack by Guns here, but I guess they weren't really. Guns wasn't attacking them, but anyway, the point still stands. They were able to edge out a win ahead of Guns, who did very well in AC2. So I guess kudos to him for doing very well in New York, but. Yeah, unfortunately, he just wasn't able to pull ahead. But again, another very close race in Atlantic. So, what was formerly a Democratic stronghold, we've seen tonight, maybe not so much, despite what early signs were pointing at.
Do you want to do leaders right now?
Yeah, we'll move on to the Democrats first.
The win in Atlantic and, of course, the re-election of Senator Polka Dot, both absolutely essentials towards taking back control of the U.S. Senate tonight. We're looking up. We're not feeling, we're pretty happy about the large win in Greater Appalachia's 3rd district. That was certainly bigger than expected. I believe the exit polls showed a tie, winning, 56%, 58%. That's really phenomenal for us. And yeah, we're feeling pretty good right now.
Do the Greens have any thoughts real quick?
I think it's good that I just reaffirming my previous point that as urban counties, urban areas come in, this will naturally show sort of a swing towards the Democrats. So these sort of early results, which show the Republicans ahead, I think, sort of need to be cast aside just for a little bit until we see the final counts coming in.
And finally, the Republicans.
This is a very nice surprise to have those two 50-50 races come into our hands. That's a net gain so far of 2. It's sad to see guns lose, but it was nice to see it be very close because I think that's going to be a great indicator for what's ahead tonight.
All right, thank you, candidates. Now let's go to Dixie, whose barbecue is unrivaled in the world and whose human development index is worse than Bangladesh. And in Dixie, we can see the exit polls here. Alpal 2214 for the Democrats is the incumbent senator appointed to fill out the rest of now Governor Tripp's term, while you can see a split delegation here going into the election with Cry and Brahimia for the Democrats holding the first and fourth, and Flam and the Hex for the Republicans holding the second and third. And you can see for the House, the exit polls seem to indicate continuity, while in the Senate, the poll is tied. So let's see what the results are. Let's now go into the House districts. And in the first district, where incumbent Representative Cry Defiance is fending off a challenge from Arbro 777, Cry has comfortably won 57-43, which means that Cry will be going back for a second in the House. Meanwhile, in the second district, Lieutenant Governor John G. Roberts Jr. was facing off against former Governor Mr. Whitey is awesome. And it seems that Whitey has managed to pull this off 60-40. Although, of course, Governor Whitey had a lot of name recognition from his gubernatorial term. Meanwhile, in the third district, the Hex has won this against Democratic challenge, that one narcissist, 60-40 as well. Meaning the Republicans have managed to keep both of their House districts. Meanwhile, going into the fourth district, where Speaker Brahimia was facing off against Republican challenger ex-villain, Brahimia has comfortably won this 65-35, which means that outgoing Speaker Brahimia will be going back as the Democratic leader presumptive into the next term. And finally, I believe we are ready at this point to, in fact, call the Dixie Senate race. And in the Dixie Senate race, which saw appointed Senator Alpal fending off a very tight challenge from House Minority Leader Flam, we can see that Alpal has been reelected. Very, very close result, though. Right now, standing at 50.6 to 49.4 with 95% reporting. Very close race. You can see the map here. APG, any analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Super close race. The map doesn't show it, but I'm getting some insider tips saying that Flam very, very narrowly lost Dixie 3 and Dixie's 4th congressional district. So this win might look impressive on paper, but again, absolutely narrow win here by Alpal, especially considering, they started out with a pretty good lead, at least for a Senate race. But, also kudos to Flam for running a very good campaign and almost taking victory away from the Democrats. And speaking of which, we will move on to the Democrats.
Well, I'll start in the House districts. This is my home state, of course. In the 1st district and the 4th district, Cry Defiance, Brahimia, we're going to take them down. I'm a little saddened, of course, by my own loss in the 2nd district, but it's all right. Woody ran a great campaign. In the Senate, though, this is what's really shocking the night. People were thinking the Republicans could take this one down, but with the re-election of Senator Al Powell, I'm pretty confident we're going to be in the majority in the U.S. Senate.
Greens?
This is just overall a good result for the Democrats, and I think this will most likely, as the night goes on, deliver a strong Senate majority towards Democrats, which will hopefully allow us to pass some strong progressive legislation.
And the GOP.
Of course, it's disappointing to lose the Senate seat in Dixie. It's nice that we kept our House delegation, but what we've seen tonight is Polka Dot and Al Powell, two very moderate senators, get re-elected, and we saw a more left-wing Senate-elect, Zippy, narrow the margin more than what it was supposed to be because the GOP is giving the message of greatness.
All right. Thank you to all the party leaders. After this, we'll be going into the state of Superior, which has 30 different types of cheddar and 8 state capitals. And in the state, we have Senate Majority Leader DDYT as the incumbent, facing off against challenger in Chapter 12 for the Democrats, who represented the 3rd district coming out of this. Meanwhile, you had a full Democratic delegation Congress here, with Democrats holding all 4 seats. And they seem to be ahead in 3 of those districts in the exit poll, while the 4th one is tied. So that being said, let's go right into the House races. And in the 1st district, Lieutenant Governor President Dewey has fended off a challenge from Republican challenger ModelUSGov, 67-33. Keeping the 1st district in Democratic hands. Next up, in the 2nd district, Ski Boy 625 has kept this race in Democratic column as well against Manres for the Republicans, although this was fairly close, 53-47. Meanwhile, let's now check into the 3rd district, which is probably the closest race in the state. And in the 3rd district, Motto Willem for the Republicans has broken total Democratic control of Superior's delegation by defeating Democratic nominee H.K. Norman 58-42. And finally, in the 4th district, which saw a very close race as well, we have Biesplug Zimmer for Democrats barely edging out Graylat for the Republicans, 50.7-49.3, meaning the Democrats have 3 seats in Superior, Republicans have 1. And finally, we can now look at the Senate race in Superior. And in Superior, in Chapter 12, has kept in line with the predictions, and she has managed to win the state against the incumbent Senate Majority Leader, which 52-48 with 99% reporting, which means the Democrats have 6 seats in the Senate, which gives the Democrats control unless anything changes. So this is the result for the state. APG, what do you make of all these results?
Yeah, first off, in the, I believe it was the Lincoln 3rd Congressional District race, remember, folks, typically people like to hear candidates debate against each other. So when you don't, people don't take that well. Additionally, in the Senate race, just to conclude, DDYT had a pretty good fight, I guess. And again, story of the night, Entrapta had a pretty decent lead for Senate race, and that sort of got eaten into, but also, kind of disappointing for the Republicans to lose this seat tonight. I don't think they were expecting that. We'll start with the Democrats, unless there's another race to call.
Well, this is going very well. It's amazing to see the Senate Majority Leader lose his seat to Entrapta. absolute congratulations to them. In the districts, it's looking all right. I'm happy about the 3 wins, and I think we're looking up to take. We've already taken control of the Senate. I think we're going to hold our control over the House. It's looking very, very good right now for the Dems on our end.
The Greens?
Yep, this is looking like a good night for the Democrats. The Republicans have really not been able to sort of capture the hearts and minds of the voters, I think.
And the GOP.
Of course, it's sad that we lost our Senate Majority Leader. Doesn't mean he won't be a leader in the party anymore. But we saw the polls have a much wider spread than what we're seeing tonight. And I think that's a great sign going into Fremont and claiming a veto-proof minority in the Senate and possibly with the list seats, a majority in the House of Representatives, even if it's slim.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, party leaders. And last but not least, let's go to Fremont, the only state with more Starbucks than people. And in Fremont, let's see what it looks like right now. Coming out of this race, Darth Hollow for the Democrats held the seat. Of course, he was appointed, not elected. And he is retiring to run for the 3rd district. Meanwhile, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th districts are seeing Greens rather than Democrats running. While the Greens hold 2 of those seats, and of course the GOP holds 1, the 2nd district. And you can see here, both the Senate race and 2 House races are tied, while UA for the Greens and Darth for the Democrats both hold sizable leads in the exit poll. Let's see if they hold. So now let's go to the House districts. And now in Fremont's 1st district, which covers the Southwest, we have Kilo Santo for the Greens on 46 to a succulent lobster for Republicans on 54, which means the Republicans have flipped a Green seat, adding 1 to their House tally. Now let's go to the 2nd district, where Green leader Prado was facing off against incumbent Republican Representative Block Denied. And in this race, the Greens have come out on top, 55 to 45, which flips a Republican-held seat for the first time tonight. Now let's go to Fremont's 3rd district. And in the 3rd district, we had the only Democrat, Darth, against Republican Chabalita. So now let's look at that result. And in the 3rd district, Darth Hollow has won the seat for the Democrats, 64 to 36, a comfortable victory that gives the Democrats a seat in Fremont. And finally, let's go to the 4th district, where Green Unorthodox Ambassador was facing off against Republican Astra. And in the 4th district, the Greens have won 52 to 48, which means that there will be 2 Greens going into the next Congress. And finally, we can now call the Fremont Senate race after we got the last batch of results coming in from the Pacific Northwest. And in this race, RM Steve for the Republicans has won this race against Democrat Neat Saucer 55 to 40, which gives the Republicans a win in the Senate and stops any Democratic hopes of a 2/3 majority. APG, any analysis?
Impressive win by Steve here tonight. And I say, the Republicans here started out pretty much even compared to the rest of the Senate races, and to then sort of pull ahead here is really what they needed tonight. And I think that's sort of been a theme we've seen throughout this evening, is maybe the Republicans not having laid the proper groundwork in the state, but their campaigns have been pretty good. And I think that this race here is sort of a testament to that. In the House races, again, I think these were largely as expected. Maybe not as much with the Green races. But yeah, I think a pretty good win here in the Senate tonight for the Republicans. We'll move on to the Democrats.
Actually, first, we have ABC News has some reports from GOP House volunteers who volunteered on their House campaigns who expressed their surprise that they were told to canvass and to send pamphlets to people's houses while being given a budget of $0 for it. Certainly some feedback from campaign volunteers saying that they didn't have enough resources in several of these races. And now to the Democrats.
Well, in the Senate, this is a sad loss, denying us the very coveted 7-3 majority. But it's all right. We're still in control. Congratulations to all winners tonight. In the House districts, we've won. I believe we've won 3, including we've made a pickup. I think we defeated the House Minority Whip bloc in FR2. Well, the Greens did, and that's a historic feat. We're going to keep control of the House of Representatives. We've taken control of the U.S. Senate. It's looking like a wave.
What about the Greens?
Sorry. Absolutely amazing result for Parado and Unorthodox Ambassador. Absolutely proud that they have astoundingly won each of their seats. Slightly saddening result that I was unable to win mine, but I'm sure that a succulent lobster will do a good job representing the people of Fremont 1, as much as I think I would have done a better job. Overall, it's been a good result for the left-wing caucus, I believe, with the Democrats in control of the Senate and the House now. So I think overall, this has denied us a trifecta of seats for the Greens, but overall, I think it's a good base to work.
For the GOP?
It's sad to see 50% polled races go to the Greens, but I congratulate them. They're a newer party. I do have to note, though, that we have a net pickup so far of 3 seats, and we now have a veto-proof minority in the Senate, so it's going to force the Democrats to work with the Republicans on substantive legislation that works for the American people, not for their own political interests.
Thank you for that. And yeah, speaking of veto-proof majorities and minorities, now let's see what the situation looks like in the House. Now, keep in mind, the Democrats and Greens were entering this with a veto-proof majority in the House. But let's see if they manage to keep it despite net pickups by the GOP in House districts. And in this lists, Democrats have won 11 seats to the Republicans 8. So the popular vote was 58-42, which means the Democrats are on 21 seats, the Republicans are on 15, and the Greens are on 2. Now let's look at what the final tallies look like. So this is the U.S. Senate. As you can see, the Democrats have 6 seats, which means they have presumptive control of this chamber, although they fall short of a veto-proof majority, which would have required 7 seats. Like the Hex mentioned, this will require them to work with the White House to pass legislation. And meanwhile, in the House, the Republicans, even though it might not look like it, the Republicans have actually picked up some seats. They have 14, while they had 11 before the election, while the coalition has 23, which means that they have control, but they are 2 seats short of a veto-proof majority. Once again, it'll be an uphill battle for the coalition to override any of the president's vetoes. APG, do you have any analysis of what I just said?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that despite everything that happened, the Republicans had some pickups, I believe, in the House, picked up this Fremont Senate seat. So, if you want to find a silver lining, I'd say that's it there. But that's midterms for you, I guess.
All right. Thank you. Maybe let's just very quickly go to the party leaders. What do you think of the results? Democrats have control of Congress, but have fallen short in both chambers of a supermajority. Roberts, what do you think?
Look, it's disappointing that we fell short, but in my view, this is a blue wave. This is the American people responding to the president. They don't like the president's agenda. We lost a few House seats, but if you're looking at things like the list, 58% of voters chose Democratic list candidates. We made one Senate pickup. 4 out of the 5 Senate seats up for re-election went to us. And so we are in a very powerful position to hold the president to account for the next term.
Thank you. Kiyosano, what do you make of the Greens results and your coalition?
Overall, this is a good result for the Greens. Sadly, it is not the trifecta that we wanted. We're really hoping for that Greens trifecta, those 3 seats in Fremont, sort of just as a base to build off. But I think both Parado and Unorthodox Ambassador have a track record, and they're both going to be great representatives. And I am sure they will do amazing and great things for the Green Party. And I am hopeful that our coalition with the Democrats will continue to deliver strong progressive legislation in these 2 houses, which we now have a majority in.
Thank you. And the Hex for the GOP, what do you make of these?
I actually see this as a positive growth for the GOP. Like you said earlier, we had 11 seats going into this. We gained 3, and we prevented a veto-proof majority in both houses. So, and we saw more moderate incumbents get elected, and I think it's on the Senate seats in Dixie and Chesapeake, Greater Appalachia. So I think what this comes down to is that the American people are looking for moderation. They aren't looking for a progressive agenda that's going to let the budget go out of control. They're going to look for bipartisanship, and that's what I think the Republican Party intends to do if the Democrats and the Green Coalition want to engage in bipartisanship.
All right. And with that, that is the end of our results. So, APG, do you have any final notes to bookend the show?
I don't believe so, no. As a meta note, expect a postmortem sometime this weekend. I do encourage you to ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. Obviously, the same goes for Hurricane as well, as he put in a lot of work in this. Also, you'll probably be seeing some election clerk applications opening up soon. So again, I encourage you to apply there because we need some folks. So if you wanted to get into clerking, that's your chance. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if more of you who sign up to be election clerks, the faster you'll get your polls. And
also true.
Yeah, but also finally, thank you to Roberts, Kiyosanto, and the Hex for participating in this election show as party leaders. And thank you as well for the great commentary. As well, thank you to all candidates for your participation. Congratulations to the winners. Commiserations to people who did not win their races. And thank you all for watching. And with that, we are now signing off. Good night, everyone.